We are now exiting out of the super long fantasy week. I found my team struggled quite a bit. It was kind of difficult to stream players this week, but hopefully in the latter half of the week, I'm able to stream some players, get my teams back into it. But in this video, I'm going to give you 6 players that I think you should be looking to add going into week 18, given the opportunity of some players and keeping in mind their upcoming schedules. There's a lot of players that have come back from injury in the last week or bit. So hopefully your team is a little bit more healthy and in a better position to succeed now that fantasy playoffs is fast approaching. My name's Mike, and let's jump into the video. Starting this video off with the player that I'm extremely high on for next season, but I do think has a very good opportunity to succeed for the rest of this season. Wyatt Johnston, a former first-round pick, another first-round pick that the Stars have hit on that has panned out to be a very, very strong player. He had a really good rookie season last year. We were on him in a deeper leagues going into this season. We weren't really sure where he was going to play. He was playing third line center. They signed Duchesne, but now it looks like with the success from Johnston recently and the struggles a little bit to Dallas's offense, Johnston's now moved into a line one role with Robertson and Hintz, two of Dallas's best offensive players, and he's playing way more minutes right now. The only downside to Wyatt Johnston right now, and the reason why he's not playing more minutes or is not higher rostered, is because he's not on the top power play unit, but I'll talk about that in a little bit. Since being moved up to the top line over his last 10 games, he has 9 points, 28 shots, 53 shot attempts, and is averaging over 17 minutes time on ice. His expected goals for per 60, 1.66, ranks 13th in the league, and he's around top 50 for a lot of the major shooting categories, as well as points per 60. He's been an extremely strong and valuable player. If you've added him recently, I now think he becomes a 12-team must-add player, especially if you're looking for some depth up the wing or just dual position eligibility. Now, like I mentioned, he is on the power play too, and that's a little bit concerning with some players. But with the Dallas Stars right now, their power play has been struggling considerably, and it looks like their power play 2 is actually getting around a 40% split, which is what you like to see, not from the players you own on the power play 1, but from the players that you're picking up that are on the power play 2. And for example here, I showed that Wyatt Johnston's averaging about a minute 50 average time on ice per game, where the other highest forward in Jason Robertson's averaging 2 minutes and 50 seconds time on ice. So there's about a 60-40 split there. That's a little bit promising for Wyatt Johnston, although I wish he was playing on the top power play unit. He's definitely a huge sleeper going into next season, but also a strong add for the rest of this season. Up next, Nick Schmaltz, definitely more of a schedule type play with Schmaltz here. I was trying to look at what teams have the best schedule for the next week, and hopefully you can add a guy depending on how your team is doing this week. So right now, if you're struggling, like I'm in the FPPL, I'm down by 5 points, and it looks like the matchups could end really close. This is a player I would not be looking to add because he doesn't have a strong schedule for the rest of this week, but good going into next week. So if you're up quite a bit in your matchup right now, take advantage of it. Add a player that's going to be playing line 1, power play 1, and has 4 off nights going into next week. Schmaltz plays big minutes. Now, there's not a whole lot to like about him. He's around a top 150 to 175 forward. 30 points this season, 13 points in the power play, and just under 100 shots in 46 games. Very solid for Schmaltz. And on the Arizona Coyotes, he's probably the best available player on your free agency that isn't Clayton Keller because he's likely owned. At just 18% rostered, you're getting a guy who ranks second on the team in minutes, first on the team in power play minutes, and third on the team in points amongst all forwards. The Arizona Coyotes are struggling. A team I just want to see do good so bad, but they're just a couple of years away. But with Schmaltz here, he's strictly a schedule add. 4 off nights next week for Arizona. The best possible schedule you can get each and every week, and that's the reason why I'd be looking to add him. It really depends on how your team is doing, so make sure you evaluate. If you're clearly going to win your week, definitely a guy you want to be looking to add to end out this week. To my surprise, and players that are in the FantasyPuck Patreon League, they're definitely going to be watching this video and probably starting to add Noah Hanifin, but he's available in the Atlantic League right now, and I'm extremely surprised, and I'm currently trying to move a D so I can add Noah Hanifin. He's currently playing on the top pair and quarterback in the top power play unit. As you can see in the last point there, I do think he's kind of trade bait right now for a contender, and I don't want to be adding players contingent on them being traded to another team, but with some of the moves recently, it looks like they're trying to move some of their top talent. And maybe what Calgary is doing right now is giving Hanifin all the possible reps to maximize the value they get out of him. So over his last 10 games, like I said, top pair, power play 1, averaging 24 minutes and 45 seconds time on ice, 14th most amongst all defensemen. He has the 8th most points with 6, 5th most shots with 25, and the 20th best fantasy points per game amongst all defensemen in standard Yahoo leagues. So very solid all-around numbers from Hanifin. Now, I don't know where he's going to get traded or if he's going to get traded, but as long as he maintains this top spot and quarterback in the top power play unit while playing big minutes, his roster percentage should only continue to go up. Any defenseman that plays on the top power play unit over 25 minutes a night or just around there is easily a rosterable defenseman. I was very surprised to see how available he is in some leagues right now. Defensemen are thin. You're likely struggling for defensemen in some of your leagues. This is a guy that's going to get you a really solid floor because he hits and blocks as well as shoots quite a bit, and also a high ceiling on the top power play unit. I would be adding Hanifin in 12-team leagues for sure right now. Now, if he gets traded to a contender and hopefully he quarterbacks the top power play unit, it could be a very good long-term play. At the time of recording, just 36% of you are subscribed to the channel. So if you've enjoyed the content so far, make sure you subscribe to stay up to date with all the content that we're going to be pumping out for the rest of the season. In addition, we have updated our projections for the rest of the season. If you're interested in gaining access to that, head on over to our Patreon. The link will be in the description. If you have any questions, make sure you leave a comment in this video or simply message me on Discord. Let's jump back into the video, guys. Chris and I have had terrible luck with recommending goalies this year. It's probably the hardest part about doing this is just giving you a goalie once per week that I think you should be adding. Now, I think this is likely the safest bet for me this week with Jonathan Quick, 44% rostered, someone I've been scooping up over the last week or so. Now, it's really weird to see that he actually has been starting majority of the games over the last little bit over Shesterkin. But we know Shesterkin's talent. We know the Rangers like Shesterkin. He was an all-star this year, and he's going to continue to get starts for the rest of the season. But with Jonathan Quick here, he gives you a solid goalie 2, goalie 3 option in a lot of your leagues right now. And I know a lot of you, including myself, are likely struggling for goaltenders unless you drafted Markstrom and Demko or some of these goalies that have been very good this season. Now, we started the last 3 games. I would not panic if I'm an Igor Shesterkin owner. I would actually be buying low on him right now. I expect moving forward about a 60-40 split between Shesterkin and Quick, with Shesterkin starting to ramp things up closer to playoff time. Now, in the 2023 season, like I said, Quick has been very good. Among goaltenders with a minimum of 500 minutes played, he has the 8th best save percentage, the 6th best goals against average, the 12th best high danger save percentage, and over his last 6 starts, he's given up 3 goals or less in all 6 of those starts. So very promising numbers from Quick. One thing I want to mention, like I always want to do with goaltenders, is there's definitely a difference between goaltenders in points leagues and categories leagues. In categories leagues, I think Quick's a solid goalie too because of his underlying stats. You want goalies that are going to get you save percentage and goals against average, and you don't really necessarily need to focus heavily on volume. Whereas in points leagues, you want starting goalies. You want goalies that are going to be saving a lot of shots each and every night, each and every week. So with Quick here, he's a goalie 3 in points leagues and definitely a goalie 2 option in your categories leagues. Adam Henrique has been surprisingly extremely good, but that's what you get sometimes with these bad teams is you get players that are a little bit older that just play big minutes and can produce offensively. And that's what we're seeing with Adam Henrique right now. He has a bump in play time now that Trevor Zegras and his nightmare season continues. He's injured again. Alex Killorn is injured again. Henrique has been bumped up to a top 6 role, playing on the top line, while also skating on the second power play unit. It looks like the Anaheim Ducks split up their power play a little bit, so it's not really much concern with Henrique there. Their power play is also not very strong, so it doesn't matter too much. But with the bump in time on ice, he's played 18 minutes and 30 seconds over his last 10 games. But he's also playing over 20 minutes in some of those games, and that's what you like to see from these forwards that play big minutes that cover all the categories, and that's what you're getting with Henrique. So over his last 10 games, 5 goals, 12 points, 24 shots, 9 hits, 11 blocks. Like I said, touching every single category while putting up over a point per game in his last 10 games. Definitely some intrigue there from Henrique, a guy that's going to be skating big minutes and a good opportunity on a team that's struggling but still needs players to help them produce some offense. I was really surprised to see this, but over the last 30 days average total points, he's averaging 9.76 fantasy points per game in standard Yahoo leagues, a top 25 player over that span. Do I think this will continue? No. But do I think he has a very solid floor for the rest of the season? Yes, I do. He's an all-category forward, someone I'd be definitely looking to roster in 12-team leagues. Ending this video off with a player that it's kind of saddened me for how bad of a season he's actually had, given how good of a season he had last year. The Sabres offense seems to be extremely inflated last year, and with Tage Thompson not healthy for a little bit and struggling quite a bit this season. The team has almost fallen apart offensively after being a top 5 offensive team last season. For Dylan Cozens here, he went from a sleeper to a drop candidate. I'm actually surprised his roster percentage is over 50%, but there's still people, and especially if you're in competitive leagues, that will be owning Cozens. I know in one of our leagues, I know Chris owns him, and I was surprised to see because I was looking at him. And Buffalo just can't find offense. They've been shuffling their lines like crazy. I actually went to go watch a Sabres and Avalanche game in person with Chris, and Cozens was terrible in person, but he's recently been moved back up to a top 6 role. He's been moved back up to the top power play unit. Most of the team is healthy now with Tuck, Skinner. Everyone's back and healthy. Last season, 31 goals, 68 points, 18 points on the power play, and 211 shots. That was in his second full NHL season. Now he's going into his third full NHL season. He signed that big contract, 47 games played, 10 goals, 29 points, just 5 points on the power play, but 124 shots, and he's still maintaining that elite shot rate. And that's what you want to be seeing from players that are struggling a little bit. Are they still shooting the puck? Is their shooting percentage down? And with Cozens, yes, it is. He's down to about 8% right now, where last year he was sitting at about 14%. Maybe his career average is 10 to 12, but still a struggling season for Cozens. This seems like a really good time to be picking him up as Buffalo continues to experiment with their lines, but he still is going to be playing a top 6 role, and he's still in the top power play unit as time of recording, so worth a roster add if you're looking for some center depth, especially with the second half resurgence that we're hoping to see from Dylan Cozens. That will do it for the Week 18 must-add players video. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you leave a like, and if you're new to the channel, please subscribe. Thank you for watching, and I look forward to seeing you all in the next video.